Hello there. The art of surrender is one of the cornerstones of spiritual practice. You may have heard it been put this way: let go and let God, or leave it with the stars. Basically, it's the idea that if you release resistance, you will be allowing the universe to deliver you straight to what you have asked for, to take you to what is in alignment with your highest good. Now, if you're one of these people who actually trust that the universe does have your best interests at heart and is going to deliver you to your highest good, then you can give yourself a gold star. You've just become very lucky in the beliefs department. But for some of us, if we're honest, this is the exact opposite of how we feel. The way that we feel is like the universe is conspiring against us, that it quite literally does not have our best interest at heart, and sure as hell is not going to deliver us to what it is that we want. In fact, it's hell-bent on making sure we never get there. Our lives feel like a very scary dance, whereby we feel like the odds are stacked against us, and it pleases the universe to watch us suffer. Every positive thing that comes into our lives is viewed as a cruel trick that will turn into a source of suffering. Our future seems harrowing and bleak. The best way to describe this highly subconscious mentality is that we are sort of in a deadly chess game against the universe at large. We try to outmaneuver, outpower, placate, please, and bargain with the universe because the universe is not our friend, it's our adversary, and we end up tormented because we're playing against something much bigger than ourselves, where there is literally no way to win. If this is our reality, it feels terrorizing. We are in a terrible relationship with the very universe that we live in. Now, so you can understand just how terrible this mentality feels, imagine a fish who is convinced that the water that it's living in is out to kill it. We start to believe that life is about suffering. We look around our world at all the suffering that's going on in the world, and then that becomes even more proof of it. This belief pattern begins, like most experiences, early on in our earliest experiences of life. Now, this particular condition has its roots deeply in trauma. Some children are what we would consider, quote-unquote, lucky. They come into situations where their gestation is nice and cozy, where their birth is not traumatic, where the parents are in alignment to a degree that they make these children feel totally fine in life for the most part. That's a really lucky circumstance. It's not going to create a lot of trauma. But some of us, however, did not come into lives like this. We might have come to mothers who themselves felt the universe was against them. We began to adopt this frequency while in the womb. Some of us had traumatic birth experiences. Some of us had parents who were less than nurturing. The result, we believe that we're powerless to powers that be. Powers that did not have our best interests at heart. Life itself began to feel inhospitable, even though the experiences vary that create this pattern of mentality in our subconscious mind. The most common trauma I see creating this thought pattern is a pattern that begins with either one or both of our parents. And here it is. Parents are supposed to be advocates. We're supposed to feel as if they're on our side. And sometimes it just doesn't feel this way. Even if we had a parent who really did have the best of intentions, they could have had a good intention for potentially being adversarial, but to us it doesn't seem like there's a good intention there. It just seems like they're adversarial. Now, chances are so high that if you have this belief that the universe is against you, you felt like one or both of your parents was against you. This is not a sinister dynamic, but what we have to understand is that this particular dynamic is imbued with the idea that our parent did not have our best interest at heart, and that in fact we had to feel good in spite of them. When we are younger, our parents are much bigger than us. They're much wiser than us, much more capable than us. They meet our needs. In essence, they're gods. So we believe literally anything they tell us. We don't know any better. Reality must be what they're telling us. And when we grow up, what you'll notice is that that parent figure, because we now have the capabilities and the wisdom, and probably even more so than they had, we now replace that primary authority figure with what we would consider to be a spiritual version of God or a religious version of God. It's basically this omnipotent consciousness which exists externally for most people's belief systems. Because we perceive this omnipotent consciousness as being bigger than us and wiser than us and more all-powerful than us and more all-knowing than us, we see it as an authority figure. So what does the subconscious mind do? It searches through its Rolodex for its definition and expectation of an authority figure, and then it superimposes that over the top of this new authority figure we have that we are calling God. That's a problem. Why? Because let's hope you had very in alignment authority figures. If you had punitive authority figures, that's going to be the idea that you superimpose over your concept of God. That explains the Bible a little better, doesn't it? Because if your first authority figures felt like adversaries, God will feel like an adversary to you as well, who is hell-bent on punishing you. Everything will be viewed through the lens of how the universe is against you instead of for you. Don't believe me? Make a list of all the things you really disliked and really liked about each one of your parents individually. And then I want you to look at that list and see how you have done exactly that. What you expect from the universe is exactly what you expected from your parents. It's what you liked and disliked about them. If you had a confusing mother, you're apt to be confused by God. If you were punished by your father, you will most likely expect punishment from the universe, and so on and so forth. You will find that you usually project the parent who had the most authority in the household over your concept of God the most. Now, this issue of distrusting the universe is only compounded if you suffer further trauma and disappointment and pain in your life. With each hardship, this belief digs deeper and deeper. This is compounded further if you're raised in a religion whose idea of God mirrors that of a punitive parent, whom you have to please or else. And one day, it doesn't matter if some missionaries show up on your doorstep and tell you God loves you. It doesn't matter what spiritual teacher professes to you the benevolence of the universe. You may want to believe it, but you don't. And there is one glaring mystery that is left ricocheting around in your mind, nagging you incessantly. If God is benevolent and loves me and is on my side, then why the hell did those things happen to me? Why would an omnipotent God let me suffer like that or like this? We can take this further and apply it to things that we are witnessing in the world. If God is omnipotent and loves us, why the hell does God let children be abused, women be raped, men get blown to bits in wars, natural disasters happen, animals get slaughtered, etc., etc.? Rather than wander off into the highly hypothetical world that most of us spiritual teachers like to feed you in response to questions like that, I would rather just work on developing your relationship with Source or God so you can get those answers for yourself. I don't want to sit here and spend my time trying to convince you that God is on your side. A, it's obnoxious. B, you have mountains of proof to the contrary. So instead, I want you to do the following. Step 1, I want you to pull out a piece of paper and I want you to write down all the proof you can think of for why the universe or God is against you. With each item of proof, I want you to shoot holes in the evidence. This means think of ways that each item of proof is not actually good proof that the universe is against you. Involve other people in this process if you just can't see how to shoot holes in the specific evidence that you're looking at. If you feel like the universe is against you, you feel like a victim to circumstances. So without slipping into self-blame, look for the ways that you helped create those circumstances. What choices did you make that helped to create them? Also, you want to try to see how each item of proof might instead be proof that the universe is for you. How did each thing benefit you? Step 2, I want you to start a brand new journal. This journal is called the How God, or Source, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, is on my side. This is just an amped up or accelerated version of your synchronicity journal, which I've mentioned in several videos before. What you want to do is start with the past. So you want to look at circumstances that happened a long time ago, things that might be nagging at you, and look in those scenarios for how Source or God might be on your side instead of against you. For example, Let's say that you rolled your car on the highway, but you rolled your car in the only part of the highway that was made of dirt. That would be considered how God is actually on your side. You want to look for those things, the silver linings. The question to ask yourself is, what even worse scenario could have happened, but didn't? Then gradually I want you to make this a daily thing. How the universe is on my side today. Now, this includes synchronicities, and it includes things that you're grateful for. All of these things are ways that the universe is on your side. Even if the universe places you in a space where you're in front of a beautiful flower that's a universe being on your side. Take note of these things, because when we feel like the universe is against us, we're not going to take note of those things. 3, I want you to start up a dialogue with God or Source of the universe. To understand how to do this, I want you to watch my YouTube video titled Letters to God. 4, I want you to consider the following. We are indivisible from the universe that we live in. It is in fact a reflection of us. What does that mean if we think that the universe externally is against us? It might mean that it's a reflection of the following. I am against me. I want you to look for how that might be true in your life. If you think that the universe is against you because it kicks you when you're down, how do you kick yourself when you're down? If you think the universe is against you because it continually does things that are bad for you, how do you continually do things that are bad for you? 5, if you feel like the universe is against you, then the bottom line is you don't trust the universe. Because the universe is a reflection of you, what does this mean? It means you don't trust yourself. Most especially, you don't trust yourself to keep yourself safe. That's a terrifying reality, to live and be in your own skin every day and not trust yourself. So for this reason, developing self-trust is a very important part of learning to embrace the idea that the universe is not against you completely. For this reason, I want you to watch my YouTube video titled How to Trust Yourself. 6, right your wrongs. Now, we have to understand first and foremost that right or wrong is not a judgment that this universe makes. God does not look down at people on earth from this external perspective of judgment and say, that's right, that's wrong, you should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. However, if you are in the space where you are thinking that the universe is against you, you are very much operating from the belief system that there is a right and a wrong, and that you better figure out what's right or else you'll be punished because of being wrong. For this reason, I want to keep within the confines of this particular belief and work from within this belief structure. If we feel the universe is against us, we feel powerless and usually very guilty. Why else would we be punished by the universe? So I want you to think about what it is exactly that you did that was so wrong. What did you do that was wrong enough to displease God or the universe? Now take your power back by figuring out how you could make up for those perceived wrongs. How could you make it better or demonstrate that you were correcting your mistakes? Once you find out the answer, take action. Make positive lifestyle changes. It must be said that when many of us ask this question about what it is that we did wrong to displease God or the universe, we can't come up with any answer except for the fact that there is something about us, about who we are innately, that is wrong or bad, and thus we're being singled out by the universe. This is called shame. For that reason, I want you to watch my YouTube video titled How to Overcome Shame. 7, meditate. If you are a Christian or another orientation like that, you could use prayer. Meditation and prayer are very closely linked. The point is, meditation has been used to connect oneself with the God aspect for thousands upon thousands of years because it works. It allows us to experience the aspect of ourselves that is beyond our thoughts and our emotions and the experience we have of our temporary human life. Much of what any of us tell you about the universe is hypothetical for one reason. You haven't had a direct experience with it yet. I think it's fairly cruel for us to expect, as spiritual teachers, anyone to just believe us because we say so. Meditation actually allows you to have that direct experience, so it becomes your truth instead of a truth you would like to believe. Disciplined meditation every day, in my opinion, is one of the best ways to do this. Try out all different kinds of meditation techniques to find the one that you like the best and the one that works for you specifically. 8. It's time to recognize that if we were younger and couldn't get a lot of positive attention or focus from our parents, most likely what we did was go for negative attention and negative focus. Why? Because anything is worse than being ignored. The isolation of not mattering is absolute and utter torment. So why is this important? It means that we have a subtle hidden motive for believing or keeping the belief that the universe is against us. If the universe is against us, it must mean we're powerful. If the universe is against us, it must mean that we matter. Think about it for a minute. If we weren't powerful, why would the universe go to all that trouble for something that wasn't a threat? If we didn't matter, why would the universe care at all? So we get to keep the sense of empowerment and of mattering by believing that something is an adversary because we can't get it to love us. 9. When we feel like the universe is against us, most often it's because of a massive disappointment or a long string of disappointments. We feel like the universe is hell-bent on us never getting what it is that we want. And yes, we make it a very individual thing. Disappointing things happen to me and not to others. You can bet that we struggled with disappointment as children and have not achieved resolution about those disappointments yet. We also expect disappointment in the future, so we worry and succumb to catastrophic thinking as well. For this reason, I want you to watch my YouTube videos titled, How to Get Over Disappointment, How to Stop Worrying, and Catastrophizing. We also have to look for the ways that disappointing things do actually happen to other people, not just to us. I'm telling you, the pain of feeling like the universe is against you is mostly about the pain that you've been singled out. So, if you need to, you can ask your friends or other people to tell you about their disappointments, just so you can see that it's not just you. Also, when we get this disappointment, most of us, especially in the Thought Creates Reality community, we tend to berate ourselves and think, I shouldn't be feeling this bad about this disappointment. In fact, you're probably looking around at everyone else and saying, why can they cope with their disappointment better? I dare you to ask somebody how they actually felt about the disappointment in their life. The reality is, they feel the same way that you do. Totally crushed by it. 10. Alter your perspective about the things that you're perceiving as negative. We live in a happy, obsessed culture. It doesn't matter really where you're born. There's a hell of a lot of resistance right now, because this is the emotional dark age, to feeling anything in general, especially negative emotions. Anything less than happy is not okay. This is because we learn it's not okay to feel. Therefore, when we get into really low spaces, when we're in pain, we try to do anything we can to feel different. Get happy this minute. But in these low vibrational places, struggling to feel better is like struggling to escape a spider's web. The more you struggle, the more stuck you get. We need to instead see that these dark nights of the soul might actually be necessary. They might actually be a springboard for a much better place in life. When we are really struggling, what is usually happening is that we are in a phase of deep healing. Things are coming up to be faced and cleared. These are phases of metamorphosis. Think of it as a purification process. And can you know 100% that you shouldn't be feeling the way you're feeling? Perhaps this is the universe helping you to see and clear the blocks that you have between you and bliss. 11. If we feel like the universe is against us, the bottom line is we don't feel protected. We don't feel safe. We feel targeted. We feel conspired against. For this reason, I want you to watch my YouTube video titled Psychic and Energetic Protection. 12. If we feel like the universe is against us, then we have to be very honest about the fact that we don't actually believe that we create our own reality. After all, if we created our own reality, why would we care what the universe at large thought or didn't think, or was going to do or not do? So a lot of us, especially in the Mind Creates Reality community, are running around spouting the fact that we think that thoughts create reality when it's not actually something we do think, it's something we wished we thought. We do not actually see that thoughts turn into things. So we have to get very, very serious about practicing the art of manifestation. So what I want you to do is to pick something that you don't have much positive or negative emotion about. Let's pretend that thing is chickens. I want you to focus on chickens. I want you to visualize chickens. I want you to meditate on chickens. I want you to think about it and think about it and think about it, and then stop thinking about it and watch for how they show up in your reality. Sometimes when people start this process, at first they don't really believe it's going to work. They focus on chickens. It's irritating. They forget about it. Now suddenly they're seeing chicken postcards, chicken plates, actual chickens, bumper stickers with chickens, and they come to me saying, you know what? I can't get away from chickens now. It's pretty creepy. But at least what they've proven to themselves is, by focusing on something, your reality organizes itself around that thing you're focused upon. That's at least some degree of empowerment. You've got to prove to yourself that you can create reality to stop fearing that the universe is going to create your life for you, and so you're helpless to whether the universe thinks you should or shouldn't get to experience what you want. Ultimately, you are not separate from God, Source, or the universe, or whatever you want to call it. This omnipotent consciousness permeates all life. All things are made of it. Even as Jesus spoke about being the Son of God, his words, when translated, lost their meaning. The word he was using is more accurately translated to continuation of or extension of, which is in fact how they saw progeny back then. What does this mean? It means God does not differentiate between itself and you. You are essentially a microcosm of the whole of that which we call God, and as such you are imbued with the same power to create and to choose. This is the heart of free will. This is why God does not judge whether what you create is right or wrong, or whether what you choose to focus on is right or wrong. This world is an impartial, neutral reflection of what we choose to think about. This means if we carry around belief patterns that the world is against us, the universe will reflect situations to us that feel that way. And why would God intervene and stop us from this suffering? Because it would mean that God judged our belief, choice, or creation as wrong. It cannot hold that perspective. It is through our experience of thinking, having those thoughts reflected to us, and deciding what we would prefer, that God even knows what it is or isn't. God is in a process of self-actualization by projecting forth into different perspectives. In your case, a different human perspective. There is no predetermined state of perfection to reach. God cannot see any aspect of itself as powerless. If you are not separate from God, but instead an extension of God with your own perspective and free will, why would God doubt your own guidance so much as to stop all the bad things from happening here? These things would not happen if there was not some purpose for them happening, and when we judge all negative feeling things as bad, we mentally acknowledge that they shouldn't be happening, and that there is therefore no purpose for them. We miss the gift inherent in the experience. Often years and years after disappointing and painful circumstances occur in our life, we look back upon those things because hindsight is 20/20, and we can suddenly see how the very thing that we thought was going to create our demise in fact created our freedom and our joy. It is when we start to recognize that everything comes to bless us that we begin to trust the universe instead of distrust the universe. We start to see that it's on our side, even though the temporary experience that we might be having feels less than joyful. It is highly unfair of you to expect yourself, while you're going through these tragic circumstances, to see the purpose and to see the beauty of what is going on. I don't want you to sit in this space where you feel less than good and try to feel grateful for something that you don't feel grateful for. What I want you to do is to develop an openness to the possibility that one day, when you're through this particular period, you might just find out that the universe did this for you instead of against you. It takes practice to change a belief that we have developed a lot of proof for. And chances are you're not just going to roll out of bed, wake up one day and have a spontaneous enlightenment experience where suddenly the world is wonderful and you can see it all, where your relationship with God or Source is perfect. But what I can promise is that by practicing these things that I've mentioned in this video, you can at least have a relationship with Source, one that continues to get better instead of worse. But I challenge you, instead of asking from an attitude of doubt, if God or Source loved me, why would this thing have happened or be happening? I want you to instead ask from a space of curiosity, assuming that God or Source loved me. Why might this thing have happened or be happening? Have a good week.